Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty 360. Hope everyone's happy, safe, and well. Want to welcome you to a new edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series, where we have the privilege of speaking with leading brands about what they're hearing and seeing on the front lines of customer, channel, and brand loyalty. Today, we had the pleasure of speaking with Justin Tichy. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Petco. How are you today, Justin?
Oh, I'm fantastic, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the discussion. First off, we like to start these on a more personal level, so we'd love to get to know a little bit more about you, your current role at Petco, and maybe a passion or a fun fact about yourself.
Oh, absolutely. So currently with Petco, as you mentioned, I've been here now 5.5 years. I've been in retail overall for about 30. Retail is kind of like what I've done my entire career, and it's where my passion, quite frankly, is. Petco has been quite a bit of fun over the last 5.5 years. And, we've talked briefly before that anytime you can anchor everything you do off of like the love of pets, it's amazing how things come to life. And, we just had a great time here in my journey here. Fun fact about me is I'm an avid hiker. And my family and I, so my kids are in college right now, but it's just my wife and I. And we actually were out over the weekend in Sedona, Arizona. We got a chance to do some off-road vehicle running as well as some
Okay.
basic hiking, which is fantastic. It's great to get back to Arizona.
That's awesome. The Petco team, your team, the Petco partners, they focus on building relationships in store to get to know the pet parents better. How does this focus on enabling the partners and allowing them to kind of know the pet parents, but provide more personalized wellness and health solutions for the customers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And as I mentioned, I've been in retail a really long time, and quite often retailers become much more just transactional.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've truly loved about our time here, and it was like my first journey when I started in 2018, was building what we called at the time retail transformation. And it was taking us for, in many cases, sometimes we had a transactional sort of environment. And it was really retail transformation was all around training our partners of like, how do you interact with a guest when they came in? How did you build great solutions for them? Because again, a guest is coming in wanting hopefully what's best for their pet. And what we have found with our partners is we've trained them, and our partners are just naturally gravitating to always want to take care of the pets that are coming in and take care of those pet parents. And in building those relationships, it's really made more meaningful interactions and much more long-term sticky relationships with the pet parents. And we've seen this loyalty continue to grow over the years, which has been fantastic. And again, our partners will take care of those pets almost as if they're their own. So it's really a unique retail environment, something I'd never seen before in my prior retail experiences.
Are there any types of unique messaging, digital, in-store, omni-channel that you have developed to fully engage the customers as a result of kind of that unique customer in-store experience you have?
Yeah, one of the big things we focused on the last, call it 4 years, is we built up a membership program called Vital Care Premier. And that was, again, a great solution. And when what we have found with our partners is when we talk about what's best for the pet will be best for Petco. And one of the things that our partners really got excited about is when we launched out this Vital Care Premier membership. And you'll see the signage all over our websites, all throughout our stores, or our pet care centers, as we call them. And it's really a great entry point for that pet parent to always make sure that they're doing what's best for the pet. And it comes with great benefits for our services, which would be grooming or dog training, anything that we're doing with our vet hospitals. It's a great way for them to sort of introduce and pull them into those services experiences. And then also they'll get discounts off of some of their foods or other products that they're purchasing. So, that's been one of those great springboards to always making sure that we're doing the best thing for our pets that are coming in. And it's a little fun fact, about 80% of all pet parents that come into one of our stores always want to do what's best for the pet, but probably only call it 40 to 50% of those pet parents actually know what to do. And these are great sort of like, call it on-ramps for those customers to get really engaged and find that Petco is a great place for them to shop because they're going to get a very knowledgeable employee that truly cares about that pet experience.
When you look at that multi-pronged engagement opportunity, so obviously health is very important, emotional loyalty is very important, and there's nothing more emotionally connecting aside from your kids and your pets. When you look at that turnkey engagement opportunity from health, wellness, is there when you look at the journeys that work well that you see kind of impacts in the pet's health, impacts in kind of parents giving you feedback so the pet is healthier, it kind of everything you've done, how do you kind of measure some of the outcomes of those pieces?
Yeah, no, another great question. As we think about, call it like, Petco, the health and wellness company, that was something we really rebranded around 2019. And we made it a strong point to always make sure that we're doing best for the pet. And that's been something that as a pet parent came in, we started doing health and wellness checks. We have like a whole health check that we can do off our handheld devices. And it allows us, rather than just sort of regurgitating through, hey, here's some basic questions you would ask a pet parent, it actually allows us to enter data points on that pet. What is their lifestyle like? Are they very active? What is their typical weight like? And we can actually talk more about the breed specific. And this would be for cats, companion animals, as well as, of course, dogs. But again, as I mentioned, a lot of times pet parents don't know exactly what their pet needs. And one of the things we've talked about, myself included, as you're a partner that joins our team, almost all of us feed and take care of our pets a little bit better than we did prior to joining. It's not that I didn't love my dogs beforehand. You start to learn a lot more about the importance of food and supplements, daily activity, and you start thinking even about, mind and like how does your pet stay healthy at home? Because a lot of times, even though you might want to run your pet out for a quick walk around the neighborhood, you might not have time, but there's ways pets can get entertained inside their home, even if they're not getting walked. And it's just playing with toys or doing different activities in that sense. And that's something through our health and wellness or our whole health checks that we're actually able to introduce our pet parents to that, again, prior to me working at Petco, I didn't understand. And these are the things that we train our partners on so they can then educate pet parents. And it just, again, keeps our pet parents excited about coming back to Petco, whether it be online or in store. And we start to create an entire what's called golden record about that pet parent. So they can sort of shop anywhere they need to in our ecosystem and they can find those products and solutions that really meet their pet's needs.
It's interesting though too, especially when you talk about feeding the pets. I've started feeding my pets kind of the more fresh food, at least mixing it, bit by bit, and you see it just kind of in kind of their how to say this nice, their stool, their
Yeah.
kind of their whole process. It's a healthier process, right? Even when you're feeding Science Life or even some nicer, Blue Buffalo dog food, it's still when you start mixing in some of the package. It's granted more expensive, but even starting and feeding them like the food that we eat, right? So if there's raspberries that you wouldn't eat, you mix them into the food, and it just really helps the dog. They like that food
Oh,
versus
totally. When you
eating
think
the
about it
kibble.
as a human, when you eat better, you just feel better. It makes you want to
Yep.
exercise or get outdoors more, a little bit, be a little bit more mobile. And it's the same thing with pets. And we have some incredible vendor partners in this space. And I've been to a lot of their facilities and I see how the foods are made and how they think about animal care. And it's incredible. And it truly does make a difference. And sometimes people will look at the price of one of the top tier brands of food and they almost shy away from it. But often what you find in those top tier brands of food, your cost per feeding actually comes down. So yes, the bag might be more expensive, but really you actually can feed your pet less. And what you'll notice, and you mentioned like stool and things like that, that your pet's stool and outcomes will actually be a little bit healthier looking, and they're not
Yes.
putting through as much waste through their body because they're actually pulling more nutrients from that food. So it's fascinating when you feed and take care of your pet a little bit better, how healthy they maintain, or their skin coats might be shinier, and you can just tell that your pet feels, looks, and acts a little bit healthier, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, when you feed them that healthy food too, they probably get as much exercise as they would have running around the block. At least mine dogs, they're up on their back legs, running around the house.
Once you start on some of the fresh food that you're talking about, they very much enjoy feeding time. When the
Yeah.
high quality foods come in, they're very excited about it.
And if you try to feed them and you're out of I usually mix it 2/3 to 1/3. So there's a little bit of the other, just
Yeah,
kind of for a little. And when you're out, sometimes I'll be out and then they'll look at me like, I'm not even
yeah.
that.
I've seen them. They
I,
just look at their bowl like,
like,
what's next?
what do you want? Yeah, I don't want this. You can eat this. I want the other stuff. So, but no, it's interesting. That's a cool discussion. So when you look at emotional loyalty and how you cultivate it with your customers, your loyalty program members, it's a big focus for you, but also for members of Loyalty 360. We did an emotional loyalty study last year. Actually had an emotional loyalty meeting with our brand partners last week. And it's something that's very focused for brands, but you have a very unique opportunity because that connection between the owner and the pet is very deep, right? As we mentioned, aside from kids, it's probably not much deeper. How do you grow that? How do you cultivate that unique emotional opportunity, that emotional bond you have with your customers through the program?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fascinating to watch the pet parent experience over the years. And I think, growing up, I grew up at a small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and pets migrated from they used to live outside to eventually sort of over the last, 2 or 3 decades moved more inside. They were hanging out in the living room or the kitchen. In the last probably 10 years, and especially coming through some of the COVID years, pets became a key focal point in your household. And you mentioned the child experience. They literally are people's, children for the most point. All the data points on millennials and Gen Z is they're having children much later, and their pet becomes their child for that matter. And pets, like I was saying, as they've navigated throughout the household, quite frankly, they sleep on beds or they sleep on a nice bed inside of your bedroom at night. And that emotional connection point to make sure that a pet parent, they absolutely want to take care of their pets better than almost anything in their lifestyle. And it was funny. I read an article, it's probably about a year ago, and it was saying Gen Zs and older millennials will actually want to spend more on their pet than they will their significant other, which I thought was a fascinating tack. I mean, you think about that, like they truly think of their pet as, and it's a meaningful member of their family, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm not sure my wife would like me spending more on my dog than I do on her, but yeah, probably would go well.
Well, it's
But
fascinating. I mean, you'll watch, especially around Halloween or Christmas time or the holidays, how many pet parents come in and want to dress up their pet. And that isn't just like a dog or a cat. I mean, it's companion animals. One of my favorite sets is right during Halloween, we'll have like some different sets for bearded dragons. And you start seeing bearded dragons dressed up or parrots or things like that. It's amazing what people will do with their pets.
yeah, we're at bearded dragons. I think it was the first pet we had when we were kids, and never again. Those pets are a lot of work. I mean, they're nice. They're pet. It's just like you think, it'll be a low touch point.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Very
Lot of
similar. They
work.
need social interaction as well too. A lot of times people think snakes, bearded dragons, different reptiles, they'll just stay in their tank or their aquarium set and they'll just do their thing. They very much want that social interaction as well too. And that's a big part of like the pet's healthy lifestyle
Yeah.
of how do you interact with them. It's important.
No, it's definitely interesting. You talk about like my grandparents had dogs growing up, and they were always outside, right? And we
Yeah.
lived in Denver at the time, so it was cold, right? They had kind of insulation in the house or whatever, and carpets, but I have a dog where I take him everywhere. Like my daughter, oldest swim in college, play soccer in college. Go to all the meets, and I just take him with me. He's just used to going in the truck, and he sits there like he's a human. My wife
It's
thinks
so
it's
cool.
crazy.
It actually makes you feel great though, especially as I mentioned some of those COVID years, as people needed connection points.
Yep.
Pets brought so much more to like the household and just that interaction, especially if people happen to be alone for a period of time and they couldn't get out and be socially interactive with others. Pets became the anchor point of their lifestyle, which is awesome.
Now, when you look at your rebranding as a pet health and wellness company in 2020, it allowed the brand to showcase a more holistic approach to caring or addressing customers' needs. Pet care centers are a part of Petco's full ecosystem, the encompassing the retail space, the veterinary hospitals, the grooming training salons. It's a very unique and turnkey approach to the pet. What informed this rebranding and how has it impacted the overall customer experience and most importantly, brand loyalty?
Oh yeah, it's been a huge point for us. And as you start thinking about, what did that health and wellness experience mean to us? And as we started building out more vet hospitals, and if you look at a typical pet care center, we have all of our call it core products, dog, food, supplies, things like that. Then we had our Vetco mobile clinics, which we have thousands of clinics every single week and month that are going around usually once or twice a week in a store. And so that entire ecosystem is really where we were excited about bringing a pet parent into it. Because if you just want to focus solely on like price or selling boxes, that's always going to be one of those returns that just not a lot of retailers can compete with because eventually everybody's just throwing in on price and it creates and dilutes that experience for a customer. What we found as we started talking more about health and wellness, it allowed an entry point into the Petco ecosystem that was like different and meaningful. And that's been something that's been very special. And I've been really proud as we started thinking about our OSAT scores for customers. We've consistently over the last 3 years seen our OSAT scores continue to improve as we were growing our customer counts. Whether we were talking about that ecosystem with health and wellness, the Vital Care Premier membership program, we saw customers just naturally gravitating towards what Petco had to offer. And I think that's important in today's environment because you have a lot of big box retailers out there that just want to sell boxes and they want to talk about the lowest price. But when you can differentiate experience and services and solution, it makes that pet parent excited about coming back to a Petco. And, again, from a pet experience, quite frankly, it is a meaningful outing, whether it be every week or every 2 weeks, with similar to you throwing your dog in the truck. We see a lot of pet parents coming back in every single week or 2 weeks with their pet because that becomes their outing and their experience. And one of the things I've always loved is it's kind of like the old movie Marley and Me. Our partners really gravitate and they connect with that pet parent and they watch that pet grow from a puppy all the way through their life stages. And quite frankly, what I love about our environment is I see pet parents come in, and yes, they love the brand of Petco, but they really are connecting with that partner that's inside that store because they know that partner is always going to give them the best care. So we've really focused on our partner experience, make sure that we're driving down turnover, which we've had huge strides on, and making sure that our partners are in it for the long run to make sure that they stay connected with that pet parent. And those are those meaningful pieces as to like why Petco, the health and wellness company, really differentiates.
That makes perfect sense. Well, when you look at that full service kind of ecosphere that you're building, are there kind of trepidations or resistance to it at some point? Like much like buying, getting your car serviced at the dealer. Is it tough to break those kind of traditional connections they may have with in their current vet or whatever, or is it something that customers are open to, or is it maybe even dichotomous? Could be just interesting to see how you change that behavior on the backside of something that may be currently already in place.
Yeah, I think as we've seen, obviously the pet adoptions over the last, call it 5 to 10 years, vet hospitals, quite frankly, are very difficult to get into. If you have an emergency or a need, or if you get a new pet, you need to get shots for your pet. You might often be waiting 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even more, to get that appointment made. What we love with whether it be our vet hospitals or our Vetco mobile clinics, we're able to actually get them in much quicker. They can
Yep.
still keep their relationship with their current vet, but at the same time, if they need immediate solutions or something faster, we're there for their needs. And I think it's one of those situations where everyone sort of basically wins, in terms of whether it be a localized vet hospital or what we can provide them on a short-term need. And eventually you allow that pet parent to sort of choose when and where they want to shop. So as long as we can stay relevant and convenient and give them amazing service when they come in, it's a great opportunity to keep them inside that Petco ecosystem.
You talked about lowering your turnover, keeping your partners, your employees very happy. I would think hiring them would be somewhat unique as well because they're probably going to have key identifiers or markers that stand out with regard to passion and pets. But from an ongoing training, education perspective, voice of the customer, listening to your employees, what do you have in place that it really helps embellish the employee experience? Because as everyone knows, having that great employee experience is tantamount to having great customer experience.
Oh, totally. Especially again, growing up in retail for as long as I have, it's how you onboard that employee. It's going to be key because I think that's one of the scariest moments in your life is you start with a new retailer and your first 2, 3, 4 weeks, if you don't feel like you're being trained appropriately or being given the unique resources that you need, it makes for a very short-term experience if you want to stay with that business or that retailer. We spend a lot of time and pride developing the right onboarding training tools. So we balance it out, and depending on the role you have within one of our pet care centers, if you're a general manager starting with us, we spend a lot around onboarding, making sure you've got the right resources, the right training, a key partner to work with that might be in another location. If you're one of the partners that work within our store, whether you're being companion animals or supplies, consumables, or something over maybe the front lanes or the back rooms, we actually have a lot of online training that will take you through. So you have all that resource training that's available to them. And then at the same time, they've got continuing education with other partners in their local district. So you always have that key resource or that district champion that can be answering some of your questions you might have. So we have the online training, we've got localized resources as they need it. And then we also utilize a lot of vendor training. Vendors will give us key information and details as we think about, as we're now building through Retail Transformation 2.0, and we think about new operating models and growing the future of our business. It's very much embedded with some of the key vendors that'll be in there helping to train. So again, you've got the system and the technology knowledge that we're working with you on. We then want to make sure you've got the right products and resources and tools to help with that continuing education. And that's been one of the keys. And you mentioned being able to hire new employees. We have seen a huge uptick in the last 3 years of applications that are coming in. So as an employee, if you're thinking about, okay, I want to go get a new job, where can I go? There's a lot of retailers out there, but you also want to pick something that you might be excited about or interested in. And I think people naturally tend to, hey, pets is a great place. We find, I would bet 90+% of our partners are just passionate and thrilled to be working with a pet. And that's kind of a great entry point. So again, huge surge in applications that allows us to make sure that we balance out the right experience by bringing the right people in. And then we're working really hard to make sure we're paying them a great living wages and continuing growth, development, and career choices, which is pretty cool for our pets, our partners that are coming in.
You mentioned technologies a little bit that potentially could be used. Are you using technologies, or what technologies are you using to help deliver employee training and maybe ongoing, customer training?
Yeah, as I mentioned, there's a lot of good backroom stuff. So on the actual computer, going through some of the online trainings, we brought in, I want to say it was like 4 years ago, Zebra handheld devices. And that's just a platform that is so multifunctional and you can add so many different things to it. I think you see it in a lot of different retailers these days. So with the Zebra device, it's allowed us to really expand, not only like in-stock levels and resources and tools for our partners to be able to utilize like in the moment. Our whole health check that I referenced earlier, that's all done on the Zebra device. So it's pretty cool tools and resources. And it's been, it's probably a resource and a tool that we're using to the 60% of its capability now. We still see a couple different avenues that we'll be bringing in the near future that we can adapt onto the Zebra device. In our hospital base, whether it be Vetco Mobile or our hospitals, we use what's called Pet Pass. And it's a software program that really enables our veterinarians to be able to understand that pet parent's need, adapt, and be very fluid and mobile with that pet parent as they're growing. So there's some really cool tools out there, and we'll continue to sort of seek out and understand like what are the best resources and tools available. Right now, we've got this really good platform of tools and availabilities for our partners to learn from.
Excellent. And the last question I have is, what can Loyalty 360 do to help you and your team with regard to your customer loyalty, customer experience efforts?
Yeah, I saw as sort of I was thinking about this as a prep question because I figured this would come up. I think anything connecting us to not only like what is top of mind right now for consumers. I'm trying to understand, as we've seen like a consumer sentiment in all retailers just sort of shift and mold over the years, even going back to like call it 2010, where people were all about just price and convenience, and you saw this massive growth of Amazon over the years. It still continues to divulge back to pet parents or just consumers in general. They want great pricing, but they really want great service. So I think anything that Loyalty 360 can help us stay in front of consumer demands, needs, and trends. That's what I'm really looking forward to for a great relationship and partnership.
Okay, great. Yeah, we definitely do a lot of that. We do a lot of brand focused research as well. And we just launched a new continuing education platform ourselves, Loyalty University. So we're pretty excited about that. So definitely trying to elevate customer experience and customer loyalty and
Yeah.
understanding from individuals like yourself what you would like to have or like to see. We like to do as much as we can to tailor that in any way that we
I
can.
would actually like to learn a little bit more. Like I said, our OSAT scores continue to rise, but you always start hearing some of like the very similar trends and things. There's usually two or three that I always hear as like sort of pain points. I want to try to double click into that a little bit more, and that's some interesting knowledge that I'd be really interested to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to have that conversation with you for sure.
Awesome.
Now we have the infamous quickfire question
Love it.
segment where we like to have it one word or short phrase answers. So the first one is, what's your favorite word?
Don't laugh. Bubble. I don't know why. I've always loved that word.
Oh, okay. What's your least favorite word?
Conflict.
Okay. What excites you?
The future.
What do you find tiresome?
Negativity.
Is there a book that you like that you recommend to colleagues?
It is a super simple read, and it has been one of the biggest foundational reads of my life, but it's just called Zap, The Power of Enlightenment. I love that book. It was something that it really formed who I am as a leader. And it sounds simple. Literally, you'll be able to read through it in probably an hour. But it's just a great way to understand, especially for like young and growing leaders, to understand like how do you interact with peers? How do you think about like a consumer focus and actually just evolve your leadership style? Love that book.
Excellent. What profession, other than the one you currently have, would you like to attempt?
I had to throw out professional baseball player about my senior year in high school. I'd be an architect. I've always
Okay.
loved architecture.
And what do you enjoy doing that you don't often get time to do?
That's why I was so happy over the weekend. It's hike with my wife and my family. We don't get
Okay.
outdoors enough. I love it. It's been a huge passion of ours over the years. And and you live this, as your kids start going through high school and activities all kick into gear, you sort of like lose a lot of that weekend time. And my wife and I were just talking about doing some big hikes this summer. So we're excited about that.
That's awesome. Who inspired you to become the person that you are today?
The easy one is always my parents to say, but I would say specifically, my mom's always led in a lot with like how to think about running a business and how do you treat people and really focused on, making a difference every single day.
Okay. And what do you typically think about at the end of the day?
It's always like a quick calibration in my mind of, okay, what went really well today? How could I think about doing things better? And I always try to make sure every interaction, and this kind of ties back to the book I referenced, Zap. I want to make sure in my mind every interaction I have, is it one that was meaningful for people, and always making sure I'm giving them the right amount of time, and did I make that interaction and outcome better? And that's kind of a quick calibration at the end of the day to make sure I show up every single day, bringing the best me forward.
Okay. Last question. How do you want to be remembered by your friends and family?
It's always a good one. Similar to probably some trends you picked out of me, I would say I would want people to, identify. I brought forth a lot of energy at every single interaction, had a ton of passion and just overall zest for life. I love everything I get to do, whether it be my job or my personal life. I always try to enter it with this always glass half full, and it's basically how I try to live my life and always be positive about things. It seems to bring forward some of the best outcomes.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Justin, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. It was great getting to know you and your passions, but also a little bit more about Petco, your approach to customer experience, your pet parents, and how you're engaging them. It's a very holistic approach, and definitely driving unique loyalty and engagement at Petco. So it was very refreshing to hear the story, and also your passion you have for the brand and for what you do. That always doesn't come through in these interviews, but it definitely was resounding today. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. I always love being able to talk about it, and I love what I do. So appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join us. Make sure you join us again for another edition of our Leaders and Customer Loyalty series soon.